CCP the Podcast. Garemi Sido and Lewis Hill here.
What's
We're
up?
going to be speaking to Emily Ramsay. She's the producer of Versus, the series Women in Combat Sports, a great docu-series coming out of the Ottawa-Gatineau region, followed by...
Derek Price, the director, of course, of Versus Women in Combat Sports, the series, and also he also directed a lot of our studio stuff for CCP. We know Derek very well. This series is getting huge buzz. We've talked about it on our podcast before. There's a screening coming up. I hope everyone can make it to the screening. The price is free.
It's free, and ticket people are getting all the tickets, right? They've given away a bunch of tickets.
You got to get on there and get your tickets if you want to go. Me and Garmami will be hosting this event, of course, shining out the spotlight on the 12 subjects for this docu-series as well as the filmmakers for this docu-series. So it's going to be a great Sunday afternoon. Get your tickets. And now, why don't we talk to Emily?
So Emily, tell us about Versus, the series, and what inspired you to produce this.
Well, Versus the series is about 12 women combat sports athletes who are amateur level in Ottawa-Gatineau. However, they are extremely dedicated to their sports, competitive, looking at different martial arts. We've managed to get some really great women who practice a lot of different sports like boxing, judo, wrestling, Muay Thai. And what inspired me really to create the show in the first place is I am a fan. And as a fan, I do watch a lot of content, but there's not a lot of content that is created specifically with women in mind. We're seeing a few more things pop up now and then, like short documentaries or, profile pieces on female athletes. However, I thought Ottawa and Gatineau have a really great fighting scene. I really think that we should be profiling the amazing women who are here.
Very cool. Follow up with that. As far as telling the story and diving into the themes, what sort of themes have these athletes and women shared?
Really, a lot of themes of empowerment and triumph, persistence. We really just try to focus on people who have great stories to tell, but have a lot of dedication as well. So you could really see that these women are very, dedicated, but also just really there to improve themselves in the sport and the people around them who practice with them. So I'd say the key theme would be empowerment, really.
Cool.
Now, thrusting yourself in the martial arts scene like that, like you've made some friends and relationships with some very key players. Does it, are you tempted to jump in martial arts training yourself?
It's something that interests me. Like, I did Taekwondo when I was a kid, and I also did Jiu-Jitsu. However, I didn't continue it after I finished high school. And it was not like I was competitive or anything like that. It was really recreational. I did it with my dad. But something that interested me, which I never thought I would be interested in, was Muay Thai after watching women, the Muay Thai fighters, throughout this process. And I think also because a lot of them, also have teaching elements in their style and are very encouraging. It kind of makes you feel like it's an accessible sport that pretty much anyone can take on.
I love Muay Thai myself. I know I've trained it for, I don't even know, 15 years now, and I still train it. And you're right, it is accessible. You can make that sport whatever you want it to be. Competitive, fitness. For me, it's just fun and continue learning right now. Talk to us about.
Exactly.
Talk to us about the feel and look of the show, because, it looks great. And I mentioned this before, and feel free not to answer this, but I feel like Bell was expecting community television, and they got, feature film quality. Talk to us about that.
Well, whenever we pitched the show originally to Bell, our team sat down, Derek Price, Jeremy Kennedy, and I, we sat down. We really talked about the style of the show and what we wanted it to be. We knew we did not want it to look like a typical community lifestyle show, which is typical for what's coming out of Ottawa for these community television series that Bell's producing with Five. We kind of all agreed that documentary was the way to go, and one thing we wanted to do was just to create anything that we put out there to the best of our abilities in the highest quality that we possibly could. And so we did that, and one of the ways that we did it was we really planned in advance. We did research on the looks of the shots and what kind of shows we wanted it to be similar to, and that's what ended up happening. We really wanted it to look like that anybody could watch it. It's not just an informational community television series. So we wanted it to feel like, yes, we could make this into a feature documentary or into really a true documentary series, which is what I feel like we did.
Well, congratulations on that. The reception from the fighters and the families and the friends and even the spouses of people has been tremendous. People absolutely love this series.
Well, we really did it for them too. Like, we really wanted to be true to who the women were and what they looked like whenever they were fighting and what they looked like when they were in their homes. So that's what we tried to do.
Two-part question. What sort of conversations or impact is this series going to have on combat sports as far as women in combat sports? And what does working on this project mean to you personally and professionally?
Well, my impact, my hope for the impact is that people will be taking women fighters more seriously. One of the common things that a lot of the women talked about was how hard it is to get on a card, to get about, to fight locally, especially just because there's not enough women fighters who are competing, but also because people are at certain levels and you can't, to find someone who's comparatively at a level that you are, and you're fighting and working towards a certain goal, it's hard to find someone sometimes that's also at that level with you. And so you can't always have competitive bouts. We saw a couple exhibitions while we were shooting, and then we also saw some great tournaments that we went to as well. But I think one of the challenges is that a lot of women were saying is that we need more fights locally for women. Another thing that was said was that it'd be great to see more women actually on the cards in general. If it's not them, if it's others. A lot of women have to travel for it, and it can be expensive and challenging for them, balancing that life with their families because they're still on the amateur level, I guess you could say, though a lot of them don't fight like they're on the amateur level.
That's right.
But I think that what I'm hoping the impact will be is that people will want to see these women fighting and others. And then, what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
What does this project mean to you personally and professionally?
What it means to me personally, that's a good question. I've always wanted to tell women's stories. That's my goal whenever I started filmmaking and whenever I started coming up with ideas for TV shows. And to just see this show get the reception that it did, entirely focusing on women and women fighters, that's meant the world to me. And as a creator and as a producer and as someone who would want to watch this content myself, I knew that there's others out there who would also want to see it. So it's really it's been really great for me to kind of see that reception happen, and for people to see these women and their lives.
I think it's an awesome series because it's the first of its kind, I believe, in the Ottawa-Gatineau region and possibly Canada as a whole. Follow-up question in regards to question 2A, where I want to know, like, when you speak about the challenges these athletes have had, obviously that's a reality, finding fights on a card. Would you say those challenges are unique to women, or aren't they just the typical sort of reality for all combat sports athletes? Hey, I can't find a fight on a card, regardless of gender. I guess what I'm asking is, beyond that point, is there anything else more unique about their challenge? I believe the answer is yes. If you can answer that, can you elaborate on it?
Yeah, to be honest, I feel like the themes that are in this show, the challenges that the women have, are pretty universal, probably for people who are trying to make it in their sport. For athletes who are not on the professional level, and maybe even on the professional level, trying to find fights seems that it's a huge challenge. Whenever you have to also have, a full-time job, you have a family or a child, or you have to really, it's hit and miss how you can balance that, right? And what the ability is to travel or to accept a fight where you might get your face bashed in, or you really have to, it's money as well. Whenever it's not just you, and you have to think about your partner or your child, or how much you have to work overtime to be able to afford it. I think that these are challenges that probably a lot of athletes are taking on, not just women.
Agreed. Yeah, talk to us about something that really fascinated me with this series was the pro wrestling aspect, because I've never been really into pro wrestling, but when you brought that character on there and she transformed into the character that she was, it blew my mind. Like, I know you're a fan of pro wrestling. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, Derek and I are both huge pro wrestling fans. We really enjoy the entertainment aspect of it. And there's a lot of things like we didn't get to include everything that we did for each woman, but whenever we were talking to Julia for Stephanie Weiss, one of the things we did talk about, and we couldn't keep it in because of time, was how a lot of people view the sport as a fake sport or whatever, because there's storytelling in it, and a lot of it's predetermined, and a lot of work, acting and all this kind of stuff has to go into it often. But the people who are practicing it, they do have to put their body through a lot, and there's athleticism in it as well. You're jumping, you're spinning, you're flipping, you're also having to do, lifting people. So you have to stay in shape for it, and your body can go through hell too. And with Julia's story in particular, one of her challenges is getting back into the ring after an injury, because a move gone wrong ended up having a shoulder injury and subsequently surgery. There's no challenges. There are challenges and risks that are involved in it, just like any other sport. But speaking to Julia in particular, whenever I sat down with her, I was like, I really want this person to be in the show, because she has just this great bubbly personality. She's extremely passionate about it, and she's very real about it. And then whenever she transforms into Stephanie Weiss, she is very mean. She is like completely opposite of what her personality is.
It completely blew me away when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. She's completely different outside the ring than she is inside, but she takes on that character so entirely, and she just kind of blew me away. And we knew that we wanted to have at least one athlete that was a pro wrestler, and I was communicating with a couple, but as soon as I was going back and forth with Julia, I was like, I feel like she's going to be the one that we're going to choose, because her personality came through in her writing, and then whenever I met with her, I was like, I can instantly connect with this person.
So you're at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing there in relation to versus the series.
Well, right now, my goal was coming to TIFF just to network and meet people who are in the industry here in Toronto. There's a few places that I'm reaching out to that I hope to get interest in the show. I can't really say much more than that, but I'm working hard on seeing if we can get this show on another broadcaster or another digital venue of some sort.
Well, I mean, best of luck with that. I do believe the quality is there and the storytelling is there. Besides selling verses, is there anything you could tell us as far as what's next for Obscura Creative, or is that kind of on the down low as well?
It's a bit on the down low. We're hoping to have a few things to maybe say at our screening on September 16th. But we're slowly working on that as well. We are, of course, constantly working on projects. Our focus is really to be storytellers for folks in Ottawa and Gatineau. So really, our focus is, creating content for artists and groups here in Ottawa, and really just kind of shining a light on what kind of businesses and what kind of people live here. So that's always a focus for us.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us this morning, Emily. I know you're busy down in Toronto, and we look forward to the screening. We'll see you there, and we look forward to any big news that you may have afterwards as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Emily Ramsay, the producer of Versus the series. What an amazing achievement for them to be able to deliver on such a project with such a short timeline. It's really remarkable, Lewis.
It's remarkable. The series looks great, and what's cool is she took the time to call us from Toronto International Film Festival, where she's working on getting that series, pushed on different platforms, pushed on different, broadcasters and stuff like that. So Obscura Creative always working. Speaking of Obscura Creative always working, a guy I work with a lot, a guy you've worked with a lot, Derek Price, the director of Versus the series. We're going to talk to him. Let's get him on the line. All right, Capital Combat Parley here with Derek Price, the director of Versus the series Women in Combat Sports. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing great, Lewis. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time. Now, Derek, talk to us about, we talked to the producer and, of course, someone you know very well, Emily Ramsay, about the look and the style of the show. And I've said it before, I feel like, Bell was expecting some community television and they got, blockbuster film level quality. Talk to us about your vision for the look of Versus.
Thanks. So basically the thought was that we wanted to make something that was going to impress. We didn't really want to stick to the regular formula, and we kind of took a chance, knowing that Bell had their expectations of what a show is that they normally receive for these kind of things. So we took a chance, but we figured we would impress, and in the end, I think it did. We really wanted to pursue that doc style and not so much rely on having a host that carries us through the journey. Instead, we wanted to lean on our subjects. We wanted to rely on these amazing women that we were going to be pointing a light to and shining a light upon them so that they could tell their story the best that they can. And I feel like that's the true way to tell this kind of journey.
Well, it worked. I mean, it's, from what I've seen, of course, there's a big screening happening in a week. But from what I've seen, and I was there for the interviews, yeah, you guys touched on some very poignant subjects, some very heartfelt subjects. And, you got to give it up to the subjects for laying it all out there.
Absolutely. I think that the process that Emily, our producer, did was amazing. She met with these women in advance. She probably talked about this with you guys already, but the idea of going through this and doing pre-interviews and meeting with these women for, an hour or two, even before we had even thought about having them in the show, the pre-screening process really helped us, get to know them and allow us to build the narrative around who they are and really make this a documentary and not so much community television, like you said.
Derek, who do you think will enjoy watching this series? Can you give us an idea of the fans that might really find this series insightful?
Well, maybe it's a bit broad, but I think that anybody who appreciates a human story is going to find interest in this. I think that there's enough to pull someone in, that has an interest in either women's issues or has a interest in the lives of women. This is a show that will for sure draw them into it. I also think that anybody who loves combat sports or has even a bit of fandom for combat sports will like this. The women are the stars. Combat sports is the vehicle that they use to live their lives, but it definitely shines a light on that process of living the fighter's life. And I think that anybody who likes that kind of stuff, that likes to see the behind the scenes of how people live their lives and how their lives are affected by the things that they love, I think this is a show that they would like.
In telling the story, this is a 6-part mini doc, right? So in telling the story, how do you transition? Is every episode distinct in terms of its look and feel in relation to its subject and their challenge, or would you say there's kind of a generic formula?
I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a generic formula, but we did have a process that we did where we did follow each one of the subjects. We went with them after the interviews. We went with them and we followed them, whether they were sparring or training. If they had an event, we went to that event and covered it. And then we also did, when available, we went and did some home life coverage as well. So, I mean, in that sense, sure, there's a generic template in terms of what we wanted to cover, but each person's story is individual to them, and I wouldn't say necessarily that any of the two are the same. Each episode has 2 women, and their stories are connected by a theme that's in that episode. But other than that, I think that it will feel individual.
Which style do you find is the hardest to capture and shoot as far as combat style visually?
Which one of the sports?
Yes.
It's a very good question. I don't think that any of them are necessarily difficult, and I don't think there's any challenge to them. It's just about once you see it, you can see how you can do it. I mean, striking sports, they're great for camera. Everybody loves to see striking sports. It's fast, it's vicious, it's awesome. But also, whenever you have submission sports, grappling sports, they're great too. It's a different type of intensity. It's a different type of way that you would approach shooting them. It's perhaps even a little more technical. But I think it's I don't think that there's necessarily any of them are any more difficult or less difficult. It's just about being able to adapt to them.
Okay, Derek, kind of a fluff question here. After being immersed in all these combat sports, which combat sport is now your favorite?
So I really like judo. I was really affected by chatting with Tina Takahashi, and she's wonderful. And even though she's coaching and not so much showing the practice of judo, she was more so coaching her sons and with her husband. I really honestly, that was the one I think that spoke to me the most. I really appreciated that time that I had with her and with that sport, but I also loved all of them, but I think that was the one that probably spoke to me most.
Excellent.
Being, having the opportunity to cover so many different styles and so many different characters, what one takeaway do you have that changed your perspective on combat sports from working on this project? Is there one thing that really changed your whole established view on combat sports?
I think it's something that I may have already known, but it kind of reinforced it, was the idea that these people don't, they're not vicious. They're not born to be vicious. They're not doing this because of that thing that people always look at them and say, well, obviously this person has issues because they're doing combat sports. Like, I knew that going into it, but it reinforced it by meeting these people and seeing the struggles that they go through to pursue the thing that they want to do so badly. Like for a case like Julia Newless, who was a professional wrestler, and how her injury, her shoulder injury, forced her to basically put her life on hold. And the same goes for Christine Bohos, who's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu competitor. same thing. Like, she had a concussion, causes her to no longer be able to do the one thing that she loves, to keep her driven. And to me, I think that was the thing.
What sort of feedback have you gotten from the characters in this docu-series? Well, what have they told you that has kind of given you a sense of satisfaction as far as their involvement in this?
I think that it's nice that they were open to us and allowing us to come into their lives and showcasing that side of it. And after the fact, a few of them have messaged us who those who have seen the series on Bell have said that they really, it was better than they expected. And I think that's a great compliment. First and foremost, my hope was to impress the subjects. Whether or not we impress the audience, I mean, that's, everybody likes what they like, and not much I can do about that. But if the subjects feel that we portrayed them fairly and that, you know, they like it and that they can feel proud about it, then that's the biggest thing for me.
Excellent. I mean, the feedback I've heard has been fantastic from friends and family and everything. And of course, we will have the big screening in a week. Now, Derek, before the screening, you know, it's such a different landscape now with television and where you can watch things. Tell people where they can watch versus the series Women in Combat Sports.
For sure. Currently, it is only available on Bell 5 TV 1. So if you're a Bell 5 or a Bell subscriber to their satellite services, you can get it that way for free. And at the moment, there's not really anything else we can disclose in terms of additional distribution. Not to say that we're not busy and at work and trying to get it done. When you spoke to Emily, I'm not sure if she mentioned that she was at Toronto trying to... Of course,
she did mention it. She's hustling.
Yeah, so she's out there doing her best work to try and get us some additional distribution. And so there's stuff in the works, but at the moment, the best we can say is check out Bell, and if you don't have Bell, come see the screening if you're in Ottawa or in Gatineau. Like, it's a truncated version of the show, but it's still an hour and a half. You're going to see a lot of the show played out.
We look forward to that screening as well. Derek, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. All the best, and we'll see you in a week, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. You guys rule.
Thanks, dude. That was Derek Price, director of Versus, the series Women in Combat Sports, and of course we spoke to the producer as well, Emily Ramsay. And Garmami, this series is cool. Like you said, it's the first of its kind in this region, if not Canada. Really a well done documentary focusing on combat sport athletes, particularly the female combat sport athletes in this case. And I'm excited for this screening.
I sure am too, and we hope that Ottawa and Gatineau shows up. We know they will show up for it.
Amen.
But the momentum is clearly on Obscura Creative side as far as being able to capitalize and to tell this very unique story. One thing that's, speaking of unique, it's so many different styles put together.
Yes.
In a docu-series.
Yes.
It's not just wrestlers. It's not just jiu-jitsukas, judokas, so on and so forth. So that dynamic range of styles makes it visually engaging. If you're a hardcore fan of all martial arts, combat sports, and fight sports, it's a win-win-win. And it's unique. And I've seen the promo. I've heard a lot of positive things from you and others and so on. So I'm really excited to be there to watch this and take it all in. And again, congratulations to Obscura Creative and their determined spirit to get this done in such a short timeline.
In such a short time. And like we said before, get your tickets for the screening. It's free. It's going to be a great time. Mayfair Theatre. When is that, Garmami?
It's on September 16th. That's Sunday, September 16th. Check out the show description for more information and the link to the Eventbrite ticket page. All right. Thank you very much for listening to Capital Combat Parley. And make sure you share this interview and leave a comment.
Please leave a comment. Thank you.